The loyal fan base of Catherine Zeta-Jones has been rocked by rumors and whispers of tragic news. Such chatter quickly caused worry and conjecture for someone who has long been respected for her gracefulness, skill, and apparently idyllic life. The fate of the adored celebrity. What happened? Many people were already uneasy, and the mystery was heightened by social media. But there's a lot more nuance to the subject than what the headlines imply. How is Catherine's reality unfolding? A reality drastically different from the rumors will be revealed by the ultimate truth, which will shock many. Ascend the Hollywood ladder with Catherine Zeta-Jones. Myths have a way of obscuring the reality. The public's opinion of someone like Catherine Zeta-Jones, who is beloved all over the world, can change in an instant. Her life narrative is not about rumors and sensationalism, but about self-discipline, ambition, and the relentless pursuit of her performing passion. Her meteoric rise from her first dancing classes to her big break in Hollywood is a story of skill meeting opportunity at every turn. Catherine came from a working-class family that emphasized perseverance and hard work when she was born on September 25, 1969, in Swansea, Wales. She appeared destined for the limelight ever since she was able to walk. Also, she started taking dance classes when she was just 4 years old. Not only did she gain competence from these early lessons, but she also developed the quality of discipline that would follow her throughout her life. Right from the outset, her love for performing shone through. As she stepped into adolescence, Catherine was presented with a decision: conform to societal expectations or pursue her heart's desire. She took the monumental choice to drop out of school and join a traveling production of The Pajama Game when she was just 15 years old. Such a decision may have appeared dangerous to other teens, but Catherine saw it as a measured step toward the life she imagined for herself. She learned the ins and outs of a professional schedule from the tour, which was a priceless experience. Live audiences, enthusiasm, and the collaborative effort needed to pull off a successful production. It was a roundabout way to get there, but it set the stage for what was to come. 2 years after that, in 1987, Catherine's perseverance was rewarded when she was chosen for the 42nd Street production in the West End. When she was 17 years old, she entered one of the world's most cutthroat theater scenes. Then destiny had other plans. The leading lady's illness forced the casting committee to choose Catherine to replace her. She seized the chance with poise and self-assurance, making the most of an incredible opportunity for someone so young. Reviewers were gushing over her performance, praising her maturity and composure on stage. It proved she could hold her own against more seasoned artists and steal the show all by herself. It was a watershed moment. Because she was always prepared and professional, Catherine was able to grab opportunities that others would have passed up, and this breakthrough was just the beginning of her career-defining events. Opportunities on cinema came fast after her success in the stage. British TV series The Darling Buds of May cast Catherine as Mariette Larkin in 1991. The show is based on H.E. It takes place in a rural English setting. Bates' books were well received. In a flash, Catherine became one of the most famous faces on British television thanks to her depiction of the lively and endearing Mariette. From 1991 to 1993, she went from being a theatrical performer to a household name in the United Kingdom, captivating audiences across the country. She was able to hone her acting chops and gain extensive public exposure in the part. This is a huge step for anybody planning to make it big in the film and television industry. The role also established her as an adaptable actress who could imbue her roles with the charisma, humor, and warmth that would later define her on-screen persona. Catherine was prepared to expand her audience beyond the United Kingdom by the mid-1990s. Catherine the Great, a 1996 television film starring her as the legendary Russian Empress, was her breakout performance. Her international prominence rose thanks to the production, which also gave her a more imposing and regal appearance on screen. It wasn't the film's box office success that marked a turning point in her career. Rather, it was the fact that it demonstrated her courage to tackle complex roles and grow as an actress. During this time, Catherine was on the verge of a huge breakthrough as Hollywood started to pay notice. That new development came in 1998, while donning the Zorro mask. Catherine, who was cast with Anthony Hopkins and Antonio Banderas, gave a dynamic and enthralling performance. She was as fearless and astute as Elena, and she held her own against two of the most acclaimed male protagonists in Hollywood. The worldwide acclaim and financial success of the film catapulted her to the forefront of Hollywood's most promising new talent pool. It was more than only a financially successful picture for Catherine. It was the beginning of her formal debut on the global scene. Her performance showcased her charm, attractiveness, and command of the stage while deftly navigating intense emotional scenes, biting banter, and action scenes. Catherine was in high demand for prominent parts after The Mask of Zorro. Her 1999 film debut was opposite Sean Connery in Entrapment. Blending suspense with an undercurrent of romantic tension, the thriller portrayed her in a stylish and polished light. Catherine proved that she could elevate material with her presence and knowledge, adding dimension to what could have been a plain job. She was further solidified as a bankable leading lady after the film's successful box office run. Then, in 2000, Catherine gave a performance in Traffic that was widely considered to be her most appreciated work to date. The ensemble drama, which was directed by Steven Soderbergh, explored the intricate network of the drug trade from various angles. Portrayed the role of Helena Ayala, a lady whose husband's arrest forces her into the criminal underground. At first, Helena is shown as a sheltered socialite. However, her character goes through a significant change, and she becomes a fierce protector of her family. Catherine captivated the audience with her powerful, multi-layered performance. She stood out in a group full of known performers, earning her much award attention and even a Golden Globe nomination. This further solidified her status as an actress with major dramatic range in addition to star power. Oscar success for Morticia on Netflix. One of Hollywood's most fascinating and adaptable actresses, Catherine Zeta-Jones had already established herself at the turn of the millennium. On the other hand, March 2003 marked a turning point in her career. Her riveting performance as Velma Kelly in the film Chicago earned her the Best Supporting Actress Oscar that year. Her portrayal of the vaudeville-inspired character was a mesmerizing medley of charisma and cruelty, brought to life by her mesmerizing vocals, precise choreography, and captivating stage presence. The award was a watershed event in her career. It proved she was more than just a pretty face on television. It proved she could hold her own in the critical and commercial arenas. When Catherine won the Academy Award, it was a public declaration that she had finally achieved star status and a reward for all her hard work as an actress. Over the years that followed, Catherine kept working on creatively demanding projects. In 2009, she went back to her theater origins. A Little Night Music, a production of Stephen Sondheim's iconic musical, was her Broadway debut, marking her return to one of the world's most illustrious theaters. Catherine offered a subtle blend of sensitivity, composure, and wit to her portrayal of the difficult, yet beautiful Desiree Armfeldt. Theater critics lauded her flawless transition from film to live performance, and the show ran until 2010. Her performance was well received. Her hard work paid off when she took home the Tony for Best Leading Actress in a Musical, marking yet another landmark in her career. With this accolade, she joined an exclusive club of actors and actresses who have achieved legendary status in the cinema and theatrical industries, highlighting her adaptability and her commanding presence on both the big and small screens. Catherine continued to demonstrate her range through her careful choices after she achieved the unique distinction of obtaining both an Oscar and a Tony. Feud, Bet, and Joan, an anthology series that she was a part of in 2017, starred the renowned Olivia de Havilland. While the show focused on Bette Davis and Joan Crawford's heated rivalry, Catherine portrayed de Havilland as a cool, collected observer of the happenings during Hollywood's golden age. Critics lauded her portrayal, saying it brought more nuance and realism to the show by conveying de Havilland's grace and underlying grit. As she played a real-life character with strong ties to classic film, Catherine showcased her talent for paying homage to Hollywood's past. She brought her own unique style to the part. Catherine continued to find new ways to reach viewers in the streaming era, building on her momentum. She landed the role of Morticia Addams in the highly anticipated 2021 Netflix series Wednesday, which revolves around the adored Addams family mascot, Wednesday Addams. Stepping into a role that has been linked with gothic glamour for a long time, Catherine brought a contemporary spin to the classic character Morticia, making her elegant and quietly humorous. She provided an extra level of class to the show, and the project propelled her to a whole new audience on the most popular streaming platform in the world. The part served as a poignant reminder of her timeless charisma and versatility, demonstrating her capacity to stay relevant in the dynamic world of entertainment. Catherine broadened her artistic interests beyond acting even as she persisted in performing. Casa Zeta-Jones, her lifestyle business, expanded in 2022 to include a coffee line. Her increasing fascination with entrepreneurship and brand creation was mirrored in this endeavor, which enabled her to connect with a wider audience through her own style and preferences. She had grand ambitions beyond acting and film, and she embraced a multifaceted career that combined entertainment and business by venturing into lifestyle items. Her foray into consumer goods was an expansion of her artistic identity, not a break from it, and it gave her admirers another avenue to experience her high-quality, elegant brand. The Royal College of Music publicly acknowledged Catherine's long-standing contributions to the arts in 2023 with an honorary fellowship. Her impact in fostering a global appreciation for the performing arts was recognized alongside her acting accomplishments by the honor. From her humble beginnings as a dancing student in Wales to her illustrious theater and movie appearances, it was a defining event that connected her entire career. Her position as a cultural ambassador was further highlighted by the honor, empowering others who come after her to follow their dreams with the same enthusiasm and creativity that shaped her own path. Problem with privacy around Catherine's wedding photos. Despite her meteoric rise to stardom, Catherine Zeta-Jones faced numerous deeply personal obstacles, the most notable of which were the relentless scrutiny she endured at the hands of the tabloid press. Catherine was in the center of attention nonstop in the early 90s, when her career was taking off. The paparazzi followed her about in both her public and private moments, making her the object of intrusive media coverage. Although to many on the outside looking in, Catherine's continual scrutiny as a young actress still establishing her career may have appeared like a sign of success. The reality was that it had a price. The media saw her as more than just an actress. They saw her as a commodity, and they made no secret of her personal life. Among the traumatic events she recounted, she was unexpectedly encircled by photographers whose flashes went off in fast succession, and she has spoken publicly about this. She felt surrounded and vulnerable because they were not planned publicity stunts, but rather ambushes. The feeling she described in subsequent interviews was more than just annoying. It was akin to being violated. Walking along the street or entering a restaurant without being harassed or yelled at was not a luxury, but a fundamental human right, in Catherine's view. Despite this, she was routinely denied that right. Stories concerning her private life were in high demand as her fame in the UK increased thanks to her appearances in TV shows and early films. In the 1990s, Catherine found herself negotiating a media landscape where boundaries were rarely respected, thanks to the notoriously aggressive British tabloid culture. Photographers accompanied her to airports, stayed outside her house, and even followed her around while she ran errands on occasion. Every precious moment she shared with her loved ones was at danger of making it into the headlines, devoid of any background information and turned into shocking headlines. The emotional toll of this continual strain became apparent. Even with all the glitz and glamour of being a rising celebrity, there was still the exhaustion of constantly being in the spotlight. A tough decision was made by Catherine. Separation from the more hostile parts of the British press was necessary for her mental health. The bittersweet solution was to depart from the nation where her career had its initial significant strides. She wanted to regain control of her life and her work, so she made the unilateral decision to go to the US. Even if it functioned differently, the American culture of celebrity coverage remained intense. The constant door-to-door and street-level pursuit that had defined her time in the UK was less common. While photographers existed everywhere fame lived, Catherine no longer had to live in continual terror of invasion if she worked, went to social gatherings, or even just wanted to spend time alone with her loved ones. But that didn't mean she could forget about the difficulties of being famous just because she moved. Indeed, notoriety may spread. The years leading up to her 2000 wedding to actor Michael Douglas were among the most formative and distressing in Catherine's never-ending battle for privacy. They were both famous people, so they were prepared for the amount of attention their marriage would get. They wanted others to partake in their happiness without sacrificing their pride or control, so they reached a deal with OK magazine, giving them exclusive coverage of the event. By doing so, they could avoid having their celebration reduced to tabloid fodder and instead have photos that captured the essence of their intimate celebration. Unfortunately, they could not foresee the manner in which this meticulous strategy would be thwarted. Without their knowledge or permission, Hello magazine, a direct rival, obtained and published wedding photos. These photos weren't taken from a safe distance or by someone who was invited. Intruding on what was supposed to be one of their most intimate and treasured days, these were secretly obtained. This was much more than a simple contract violation for Michael and Catherine. Respect and trust were violated. They chose to stand up for themselves because they thought their right to control the public's perception of their wedding had been infringed upon. A lawsuit was filed against Hello by the couple magazine for invasion of privacy, resolute in their fight for both personal dignity and the idea that famous people should have some personal space. Because it prompted larger discussions over the boundaries of press freedom and the rights of individuals, including celebrities, to safeguard their private moments. The case gained extensive media coverage and attracted interest from around the world. A dislike of notoriety has nothing to do with the altercation. It all came down to the freedom to decide for oneself, when, and how to let the public in. But going through the legal system was no picnic, and Catherine and Michael hit a major roadblock early on. Catherine was devastated by the court's decision to reject their preliminary motion. Not only was she let down by the result, but she was also emotionally wounded. This, in her opinion, was about more than just formalities in the law. At that very time, the difficulty of public figures defending their private lives against a media industry that frequently put profit before privacy became painfully clear. Years after Catherine Zeta-Jones' previous story, in which she faced years of media intrusion and a very personal legal battle over her wedding photos, another very difficult event arose, one that affected both her public image and her private life. When Catherine's husband, Michael Douglas, was accused of sexual harassment in 2018, she was left with a shocking and difficult predicament. At the height of the #MeToo movement, which enabled innumerable survivors to speak up about their experiences with abuse and misconduct, these accusations emerged, which Michael strongly refuted. The accusations sparked an intense internal struggle for Catherine. She had been a vocal advocate for the #MeToo movement and thought it was critical to pay attention to and honor those who spoke up. He denied the allegations repeatedly, and she believed him at face value. Just making a public statement wouldn't have cut it. Moral fiber, devotion, and fortitude were all put to the test. In order to protect the one she loved most, Catherine found herself in a situation where she had to handle a very delicate cultural moment. Fairness, due process, and listening to both sides were important to her, but she also believed in the movement's force and necessity. Those ideals might coexist, in her view. Defining that equilibrium in the face of a public demanding clear positions was not an effortless feat. No matter what she said, people would listen, analyze, and maybe even criticize her. She may be accused of trying to sidestep the problem if she didn't address it head-on. Overly defending her husband could give the impression that she is ignoring the victims' voices. It was a precarious emotional balancing act. Later in life, Catherine came clean about the fact that she struggled to reconcile two fundamental parts of her identity: her commitment to helping harassed women get justice and her responsibility as a loving wife. She was unable and unwilling to leave either one. She experienced the emotional toll of the scandal on a personal level as the couple tried to protect their family, particularly their children, from the unending public scrutiny. Above everything else, her position as a mother has always been her first priority. Moreover, she was adamant about shielding her children from the more unpleasant aspects of public life during this period. At home, Catherine and Michael planned how to keep things as usual as possible for their family in light of the increasing scrutiny from the media. Not because of any inherent self-doubt, but because of the immense emotional burden that the accusations entailed, the marriage itself presented difficulties. It was inevitable that Catherine would be the target of criticism while she stood by Michael throughout this time. It was inevitable that some would see her support for women's rights as at odds with her position, and she was prepared for that. Still, she maintained her conviction that one could abide by a loved one who denies wrongdoing while simultaneously supporting the #MeToo movement. The role required an appreciation of subtlety, which is in short supply in today's culture that values simple answers and hasty conclusions. Keeping her cool under pressure, Catherine dealt with the situation in public. She spoke with a level head that conveyed empathy and conviction rather than an angry, aggressive tone. She made her admiration for the bravery of the victims of sexual harassment and assault known by reiterating her support for the #MeToo campaign. Simultaneously, she upheld her husband's honesty by affirming her conviction in his denial. By articulating her stance in terms of due process and fairness, she made it clear that she was not taking a stand that would have been unfair to either side, but rather that there is no easy yes or no answer to complicated problems. Opinions were divided in the press. Her poise and courage in the face of adversity earned her recognition. They admired her for standing firm on her principles and for her family, even in the face of public criticism. But some people thought that by defending Michael, she was betraying her support for the movement. As a public figure during a period of cultural transformation, Catherine was cognizant that her position would not be universally accepted. She put more effort into being authentic to her own values and less into making everyone happy. In private, Catherine's resilience was strengthened by the event. She was no stranger to public controversy, but this one hit her where her private and public lives met, causing her anguish like no other. Keeping her emotions in check while being loyal to her husband and committed to a cause she believed in was a challenge. Still, she showed a steadfast dedication to her own moral compass while she overcame these obstacles. She stayed true to her husband and didn't turn her back on the movement. Rather, She demonstrated that it was feasible to allow for the coexistence of competing facts, even in the face of personal sacrifice. Catherine's tragic bipolar disorder type 2. Whether on or off-screen, Catherine Zeta-Jones exudes an air of unwavering self-assurance that has long been praised. She became a beloved star thanks to her enchanting film presence and gracefulness. However, 2010 was a turning point in her personal life that went beyond the glitz. Michael Douglas's stage 4 throat cancer diagnosis that year was a terrible blow that caused the couple and their family unfathomable emotional distress. In retrospect, Catherine said that she was secretly battling with her own health issues during this time, even as she concentrated on being there for Michael during his therapy. She chose to come clean about her diagnosis of bipolar 2 disorder, a mental illness marked by extreme mood fluctuations including hypomania and sadness at this time. It was not an effortless choice for Catherine to come up. She was famously reserved about her personal life, but she decided to speak up about her struggles in order to help others. She discussed her desire to speak out and the stigma associated with mental health in an interview she gave to People magazine in 2011. "There is no shame in this for me. I have dealt with this and am able to manage it." At a time when discussions about mental health were quite rare in the entertainment business, her decision to go public made her candor all the more powerful. The potential for her position to bring attention to a taboo subject was clear to her. She aspired to encourage others to seek therapy without embarrassment or fear by sharing her story. Catherine noticed that her health was declining, and she knew that the stress of her husband's illness was a big contributor to her symptoms. She willingly admitted herself to a mental health treatment center in April 2011 for an outpatient stay. This was not a last-minute choice, she said afterwards. Instead of reactively managing her illness, she spoke to The Telegraph about how the public rallied behind her transparency, but she also expressed her displeasure with the way her diagnosis was sensationalized by some media. At the time, her message of acceptance and activism was overshadowed by the stigma associated with her illness. Regardless, she never wavered in her determination to speak her truth, stressing in a number of interviews that anyone should have to suffer in silence, and that getting treatment is never shameful. In April 2013, 2 years after her initial decision, Catherine decided to attend a treatment facility once again, this time for maintenance. She felt the program was crucial for her long-term stability, so she stayed for roughly 30 days. Her representatives defended the decision, telling BBC News that it was only one more step in her treatment for bipolar 2. That same year, she was very forthright about the importance of paying close care to her health in an appearance with Good Morning America. "I am among the millions of people that suffer from this illness. I'm doing what I can to be the best I can for myself and for my family." Between her first and second stays in treatment, Catherine's life remained busy and demanding. She continued working while also being a primary support for her husband during his cancer recovery. She has acknowledged that during this time, it was easy to prioritize others' needs over her own. However, her return to treatment reinforced the lesson that mental health must be a priority, even when life is filled with competing responsibilities. The decision was both humbling and empowering, a reminder that taking care of herself was not selfish, but necessary. Catherine also spoke about how bipolar 2 disorder affects not only the individual, but also their relationships. She credited Michael Douglas for being understanding and supportive throughout her journey. In interviews with Parade and People, she described how open communication about her diagnosis helped them navigate difficult moments together. By being transparent in her marriage, she modeled the same openness she hoped others would adopt when facing mental health challenges, breaking down the idea that such topics should be hidden or ignored. Her ability to blend vulnerability with resilience became one of the most striking aspects of her public advocacy. Catherine was clear about the challenges of living with bipolar 2, explaining that while the disorder requires ongoing management, it is entirely possible to live a full and successful life with the right tools. She spoke openly about her treatment plan, which included medication, therapy, lifestyle adjustments, and a strong support network. She also emphasized that progress is not always linear and that setbacks are a natural part of the process.